Hello, I'm Julian Northbrook from doingenglish.com, and this is somewhat of a personal topic. Somewhat? Yeah, I guess it doesn't really get any more personal than this. I'll spare you the details here, but just under 2 years ago, about 18, 19 months ago, I had a conversation with somebody that basically went along the lines of, have you ever considered, Julian, that you might have ADHD? You show many of the symptoms, traits of someone with ADHD. At the time, I pretty much just dismissed the idea, but it stuck with me, and I started to read about it, and the more I learned about it, the more I saw that there might actually be something in the idea. Most of the traits of somebody with ADHD seem to fit me, my personality, the way I am. Most, but not all. There were some pieces of the puzzle that didn't quite seem to fit into the overall picture. Well, to make a long story short, I kept on thinking about this to the point where a couple of months ago I decided I was going to go and have a formal psychological assessment to answer the question once and for all. That was 2 weeks ago. And guess what? I don't have ADHD or ADD, very, very similar things. No, I have autism, or what is called autism spectrum disorder, or what used to be called Asperger's under the old classification. Apparently it's quite an easy mistake to make. There are a lot of crossovers, overlaps, shall we say, between ADHD and Asperger's. They are not the same thing. ADHD is a chemical imbalance, whereas Asperger's and autism is actually to do with how the brain is wired up. It's actually more to do with the structure of the brain. So they are very different things, although they do share many of the same traits. And that's why many of the pieces of the puzzle never seem to fit. It's because I don't have ADD or ADHD at all. It's because I'm autistic. Surprise! Apparently, I am the only person who is surprised. Everybody I've told so far has pretty much just been like, yeah, Julian, didn't you already know that? There we go. Goes to show, really, doesn't it? As far as labels are concerned, honestly, I don't really care. I'm indifferent. I feel nothing regarding the fact that I have now been labelled a person with autism or Asperger's. Which really just kind of says it all, I guess. But at the same time, it is kind of liberating. I mean, many people who have Asperger's try to hide the fact. They try to hide the fact that they are autistic because they're afraid that people will treat them differently or that they will be prejudiced against. I guess I don't really care about that. I'm pretty much indifferent, and that's partly to do with how I've constructed my life, how I run my business, and you get the idea. And indeed, if you are one of the people who suddenly now has something against me because I've said, oh, I'm autistic, by the way, you are more than welcome to unsubscribe. I'm not really interested in the typical YouTube vanity metrics, lots of subscribers, lots of views. Again, doesn't really mean anything to me. But it is quite liberating, as I said, because although I am ultimately exactly the same person, nothing changes. I now have a much higher level of awareness about myself than I did before, to the extent where it really just explains a lot of the things about me, about my personality, and about the way that I've always behaved and always been since I was a kid, that were somewhat mysterious to me before. I often wondered, why am I different? Why can't I act or be like other people in certain situations? And I now kind of know why. Things like my total lack of tact is a really good example. People often say I am rude, I am offensive, and I do not mean to be. To the extent where I'm often quite surprised that somebody would find something that I said rude. I'm just a very direct, frank person. Well, it turns out this is a pretty typical trait of autism. very, very direct, blunt, literal ways of speaking. I don't feel offense regarding these sorts of things, and therefore really can't understand why other people do as well. But also other things, for example, how I've always struggled in social situations, especially as the number of people in the situation increases. I had to consciously learn to function in social situations and meeting people and talking to people, especially in group situations, in much the same way as you've had to consciously learn to do it in English as a second language. I find facial expressions in particular, body language quite difficult. I often really can't tell if somebody is joking or being sarcastic, especially if I don't know the person. If I know you really, really well, it's much easier because I'm more in tune with your speaking patterns in the way that you are. But for people that I don't know well, I will often fail to laugh when I should, or even worse, I will laugh when it wasn't actually meant as a joke. And again, I've had to really learn this stuff in a way that most people never seem to have to. Indeed, my Small Talk Superhero course is essentially everything that I've learned over the years to handle and function in social situations, just translated into a course for people using English as a second language. And I never realized why I had to learn these things, why I struggled, why I sucked so badly at these things until I learned it. Well, the things that come naturally for most people don't come naturally for me, and that's why. It also explains other things. For example, and this is one of the things that really, really makes my day-to-day life quite difficult sometimes. I have a very extreme sensitivity to sound. Group chatter, especially. People talking over each other. If I'm trying to talk to you and other people are talking around us, my head just goes blank. I can't focus, I can't concentrate, I can't hear what anybody is saying. It's like my brain tries to grab every conversation it wants and tries to follow them all simultaneously, and I can't block them out. Irregular sounds, construction work really screws me up. But also people shouting, people talking outside the window when I don't expect it. Loud music, no problem whatsoever, because it's rhythmic, it's regular, it's irregular sounds that messes me up. Fluorescent lights give me really bad headaches. Especially the kind of fluorescent strip lights. I remember when I worked in a factory for a while, those lights were agony. I feel them as a physical form of pain. Strong perfume has much the same effect on me, to the extent whereby if I am sitting on the train or on the bus and you sit next to me and you've got strong perfume or aftershave on, I will have to get up and go and sit somewhere else because it makes me feel sick. It gives me a headache. But ultimately, again, nothing changes. Really, it's just me, as I've always been, but with a higher level of awareness about myself. Why am I making this video? Honestly, no reason really, I just wanted to update about it. But I guess it is something that I will talk about in future videos. People with Asperger's do tend to have what we call special interests or obsessions, and mine has always been, or at least for quite a long time now, has been language, to the extent where I am driven to learn completely random, pointless facts about random languages in far corners of the world that most people are just like, why? Why do you even care about this stuff? Because it's fascinating, that's why. But unsurprisingly, I've also, since my assessment 2 weeks ago, become interested / slightly obsessed with the topic of Asperger's and autism, and in particular the overlap with language learning, language and autism as well. So I expect I will talk about it at some point in the future on this channel, so I guess this is a precursor to that. If you've got any questions about this, anything you want me to ask, anything you want to ask me on this, go ahead. Ask in the chat. I'm a very open person. I'm pretty much happy to talk about anything. I like to put my personality out there. Warts and all, I don't really see the point in trying to hide stuff from people. So if you've got a question, ask away. Otherwise, this is me, Julian Northbrook, signing out from this video. Like I said, no real reason for making this one. I just wanted to talk about it. See you in the next video, and bye-bye.